Middle East remains on a knife edge as Israel escalates its military operations in Gaza and Lebanon. With strikes intensifying and the death toll soaring, the region's delicate balance titters, while international calls for peace and accountability grow louder. In the United States, the Bitcoin has surged past $93,000, fueled by expectations surrounding Donald Trump's economic policies, as his presidential victory sparks market shifts. As inflation edges up and global tensions increase, how will Trump's leadership shape the United States economy and its future? In Europe, Ukraine's European allies are quietly moving towards the notion that the war with Russia will end only through negotiations between Kyiv and Moscow. Welcome to In Focus.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
الوضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Human Rights Watch has accused Israel of committing crimes against humanity in Gaza, citing the forced displacement of Palestinians as a war crime. The report claims that evacuation orders have led to mass displacement, violating the Geneva Convention and the Rome Statute. The Guardian has reported that Israel's action has displaced over 1.9 million people, destroying civilian infrastructure and leaving many without shelter. HRW argues that the military justification for these evacuations, aimed at protecting civilians, has instead worsened, harmed and failed to provide security. The report warns that these policies, which include the creation of military buffer zones, may amount to ethnic cleansing, as Israel seeks to permanently alter Gaza's demographic and territorial landscape. And providing more analysis regarding the current updates about the latest escalations in the Middle East, joining us from Ramallah is Major General Habis El-Sharouf, the director of the Palestinian Institute for National Security Studies. Welcome, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us on the show. Sir, does Israel's recent bombings of Beirut and southern Lebanon suggest the Israeli aggression will continue indefinitely?
Good afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, Israel has been perpetuating its aggression over the Palestinian people and the Lebanese people. And in fact, we have heard a lot of statements from the Israeli government that prove that Israel is going to continue its aggression on Gaza and specifically the Jabalia region. It seems as well that Israel wants to colonize some regions in order for these regions to be under complete Israeli rule and control. And in fact, after the negotiation of the post-blue line are over, then Israel is going to keep on expanding its colonizing aspirations. In fact, Israel has some goals. First, to dismantle Hezbollah and to deploy its forces on the line alongside the blue line, and in fact these are just the conditions and the goals that Israel needs to achieve before it can actually bring a ceasefire. And in fact, the Lebanese authorities want to operationalize the provisions of the Security Council Resolution number 1701, which postulates that Israeli forces need to withdraw completely from Lebanese lands. And in fact, right now that Donald Trump is the new American president-elect, the extremist right-wing government of Netanyahu thinks that the Republican Donald Trump is going to support them no matter what. I think that the policies of Netanyahu are going to lead the entire region to complete and utter destruction. Netanyahu is just leading a state in the Middle East, you know. And this
Sir,
state in the middle of the
what you're saying leads me to a very important question, which is, in light of the recent aggression that's taking place now as we talk, what strategic objectives does Israel hope to achieve in Lebanon?
The strategic goals, as I told you. In fact, they don't want any armed presence for Hezbollah in Lebanon, meaning the disarmament of Lebanon. And as well, they want the Lebanese forces to withdraw completely from the Blue Line region. And as well, Israel wants to intervene whenever it feels like its national security is jeopardized. But of course, the Lebanese authorities consider this a breach of Lebanese sovereignty. And for that matter, Israel wants to keep on expanding its irregular and illegal interventions in the Lebanese authorities. But at the end, you know, Hezbollah will never be eradicated by Israel, because Hezbollah is a creed faith-based party that is Shiite in its doctrine, and it will never be eradicated by just military operations, which means that a peaceful resolution or a peaceful agreement has got to take place between the Israeli government and the Lebanese government. This is the only solution here, because the existence, the irregular, illegal existence of Israel in the region and in Lebanon specifically is what led to the perpetuation of this war.
Sir, following Israel's airstrikes in Gaza, what role do you foresee for international actors, especially the United States, in light of the changes that taking place in the United States now, of course, transition of power, in mitigating the crisis, sir?
In fact, Trump announced clearly that he wants to terminate the war, but he didn't talk about how he's going to do that. He just gave us a generic sentence that he wants to terminate wars in the Middle East, but he didn't give us no details.
Sir, I'm very sorry to interrupt, but Trump was very clear when he said Israel will do what it wants to do, when he was referring to the Middle East.
Yes, but in the end, Trump. But in fact, Trump said that this aggression needs to stop. The Islamic Arab Summit was held recently, and it came out with it elaborated on some outcomes and recommendations. But until when are we going to just convene conferences without doing anything tangible? And the solution here, or what is evident here, is that the states want war for the sake of it, and it supports Israel indefinitely. But, Trump before proposed the Abrahamic Accords proposal and the Abrahamic peace proposal. So how is this going to happen? And the deal of the century that was as well proposed by Trump, how is this going to happen? And how is this going to take place in a world where the Palestinian lands are colonized? The entire world and the Arab world calls for the establishment of a Palestinian independent state.
Sir,
as well,
we've been saying this all the time, but I don't see that any words are turned into actions. We don't see this happening. We see Israel continuing, and it's going ahead with everything that it's doing, and nobody is nobody's helping this case.
Yes, in the end, Israel just wants to displace the Palestinians and to demolish their infrastructure. But, there is an Arab support and a European support for the Palestinian cause. And, the popular diplomacy happened a great role on the international arena, in fact, specifically in the States. And there is very
Okay,
strong...
I'm very sorry, sir. I have to wrap up the episode. Of course, there's going to be a solution for the ethnic cleansing and the genocides and atrocities that are taking place in, of course, Palestinian, and hopefully a two-state solution will be reached soon. That was Major General Habis al-Sharouf, the director of the Palestinian Institute for National Security Studies from Ramallah. Thank you, sir, for your insights. And now let us analyze the ever-dynamic United States economy as it contends with inflation, growth, and labor trends. Here's the latest on what's driving the nation's economic outlook.
We can fix every single problem our country faces and lead America, and indeed the whole world. USA! This is a magnificent victory for the American people. Promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again.
According to the Financial Review, the Future Fund has warned that inflation could resurge under Donald Trump's economic platform, which includes tax cuts, deregulation, and the changes in trade policy. Despite these risks, the United States economy continues to show strong potential. Raphael Ardent, CEO of the Future Fund, emphasized the resilience of United States corporate earnings and the low unemployment rate, factors that make the United States economy a prime investment opportunity. Although inflationary pressures are a concern, the United States market remains very attractive to investors thanks to its overall economic strength and growth prospects. And to provide more analysis on the current updates on the U.S. economic, joining us from Washington is Mr. Peter Tanis, an economist. A very warm welcome, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us on the show. Sir, Trump's proposed tax cuts and deregulation are expected to impact inflation. How do you see inflationary pressures evolving in 2025?
Interestingly, almost everything on the economic front that President-elect Trump has proposed is inflationary. We can go through the list. His plan to impose tariffs on just about everything that comes into the United States is clearly inflationary because it will raise prices for all the items we import. And it will also provoke retaliation by our trading partners. Secondly, his plan to export or to kick out all of the illegal immigrants, the undocumented immigrants in this country, is also inflationary if it happens. It probably won't happen. But there are about 11 million immigrants in this country who are undocumented. It is estimated that half of the agricultural workers in the country are among those. And if they are not there anymore, it would be very difficult to replace those workers. And in any event, it would be at a higher cost.
Sir, is your narrative pessimistic?
I think that inflation is in the cards if, and this is a big if, the proposals that Trump has proposed go through. Now, we are not going to kick out 11 million immigrants, and it is unlikely that we're going to have tariffs on everything that comes into this country. The point is, though, that if he is able to pass these measures, yes, they will be inflationary.
Oh, so you're not optimistic. How will Trump's economic policies shape the United States' relations with major global players like China, especially with inflationary trends increasing?
Well, I mean, that's an easy one to guess. He is proposing imposing a 60% tariff on everything that comes in from China. That is not exactly a good relationship building measure as far as our relations with China are concerned. And it's also wildly impractical. We import $500 billion worth of goods every year from China. Imposing a major tariff on those would be.
Sir, why do you think his policies is very harsh to impose 60% and make it even worse when you need China at this point? It's mutual.
Indeed.
Sir, I was asking you, why would his policies be very harsh and imply 60% tariffs on China when we need China at this point, or the United States needs China at this point?
Yeah, these are promises he made during the campaign. He promised to get tough on our trading partners. His view is that if we impose these tariffs, the United States will start manufacturing, and that will create manufacturing jobs in the United States. The problem with that theory is that it means that we will be producing items at a much higher cost than it would be if we imported those same items.
So, sir, how do you read the situation briefly, because I have to wrap up?
I'm sorry, say again?
How do you read the situation briefly, sir, your narrative on what's going on in the economy of the United States as Trump becomes the next president of the United States?
Right now, the economy is in terrific shape. The stock market is near an all-time high, but the stock market has been going up for 2 years, so it's likely to have a correction. And one of the things that could prompt that correction would be inflationary measures or an uptick in inflation in the United States.
That was Mr. Peter Tanis, an economist from Washington. Sir, we thank you very much for your insights and your informative and valuable knowledge, and we hope always to have you with us on our shows. And now let's move to Trump's potential impact on Russia-Ukraine war, where reports indicate that Ukraine is ready to enter negotiations with Russia without insistence on previous conditions. Washington Post reports that Ukraine's European allies are quietly moving towards the notion that the war with Russia will end only through negotiations with Kiev and Moscow, negotiations that may involve concessions of Ukrainian territory. Citing interviews with 10 current and former European and NATO diplomats, the paper concluded that while declarations of enduring support persist, some of Ukraine's allies are increasingly looking to lay the foundations for negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. European and NATO officials acknowledged that talk of territorial concessions no longer raises as many eyebrows as it once did, and diplomats frame it not as land for peace, but rather as land in exchange for Ukraine's security. According to the report, the conversation has taken on greater urgency with the election victory of Donald Trump, who has said he would quickly end the war. Without detailing how, he has signaled that he could back a deal that keeps some seized territory in Russian hands. In Europe, the closed-door discussions have also been fueled by a bleak battlefield situation, with Ukrainian forces on the defensive and fears of US funding dwindling. Joining us from Paris to comment on and analyze the latest developments in the Russian-Ukraine war and Trump's potential impact is Abdelghani El Ayedi, a former counselor in the European Parliament. A very good day, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us on the show. Sir, what could Trump's victory mean for the future of both Ukraine and Russia?
Thank you for your invitation. Well, just to remind ourselves about one fact is that the war between Russia and Ukraine was the most important event that marked the force of the relationship between the United States of America and European Union. So it was very strategic. Another idea is that Biden's administration has consistently supported Ukraine, providing extensive military and financial support and diplomatic backing. But now there's some shifting points based on explication or interpretation of ending war. When Trump says that he wants to end the war,
in 24 hours, sir.
Sorry?
He said he's going to end the war in 24 hours in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia.
Wow, this is the Trump's language. This is the populist language.
He said so, sir.
Yes, we cannot end a war, international war, or European war, very important war, a strategic war in 24 hours. Knowing that now what is doing Blinken, or the recent push of Blinken to solidify this support to Ukraine and complicate the future attitude of Trump's about this war.
Okay, sir, considering that Trump's victory could push Ukraine to painful territorial concessions that were once taboo, and if yes, then why, sir?
I said 1 year ago that Russia will not lose this war and Ukraine will not lose this war. There's no loser, no winner in this war, but Russia will end it positively. So Ukraine will continue to resist, and
will end
Russia
it in which way?
Will
sorry, sir,
itself.
I didn't hear you well. Will end it? How will Russia end the war?
Russia will not lose the war.
And Ukraine will not lose.
There's no loser, no winner. Russia plays its role in the world. It is a strategic war to say that Russia exists. Russia geopolitically exists as powerful as it can do. So the territorial negotiations or concessions are now essential to end the war. Russia will not spend all this military strategy, all these losses, only to have an international
Okay, how
image.
will it end, sir?
Territorial concessions are necessary to
Perfect. Sir,
end
sir,
this
do you
war.
think that Trump can convince both Russia and Ukraine to end the war through a deal? What will his strategy be, sir?
Trump's logic, Trump's political logic is win-win. How can I win a war without all this involvement, without investment? Or if I invest, I have to have the return of investment. So he will axe his arguments on his relations, positive relations. Let us say positive relations with the Russian president Putin, and the negotiating some on the basis of a logic how a country must lead its efforts to provide needs of the population and not to spend money and spend military aids on the wars. So I think that Trump has a lot of arguments, financial arguments, and
Okay,
real arguments.
Mr. Abdel Ghani, to end up this episode, because I've run out of time, your words concluding this is that neither Russia nor Ukraine is going to lose the war, but they're going to reach, at the end of the day, a concession, or they're going to reach a resolution that's going to solve this problem. Sir, thank you very much for your insightful views and, of course, for your informative knowledge and your kind words, and for joining us on our episode. That wraps up our episode for In Focus today. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates and Q News.